What many chosen ones are experiencing right now is not a coincidence, nor a passing phase. It is a clear movement of separation. Before 2026, God is distancing people from the world, from environments, from relationships, and even from routines that once seemed normal. This distancing doesn't happen abruptly, but progressively, silently, and often painfully. For those going through this, the feeling is one of no longer belonging. The world keeps turning, people go on with their lives, but something has changed on the inside. Conversations lose meaning, environments become draining, relationships that once seemed solid begin to dissolve without major conflict. There are no fights, just distance. And this causes confusion for those still trying to understand why. This distancing is not divine rejection. God doesn't pull you away to punish, nor to isolate you out of cruelty. He distances because he knows that certain environments cannot support those who are spiritually awakening. Remaining there would mean losing sensitivity, discernment, and clarity. The distancing protects what is still being formed. Before great changes, God always works in silence. He prepares in the hidden place, away from noise, away from distractions, and away from influences that bring confusion. Isolation is not the final destination, but a necessary stage. It is in this time that faith matures, intentions are adjusted, and spiritual identity is strengthened. 2026 will not be an ordinary year. It will be a year of definition, of exposure, and of positioning. Those who arrive unprepared will be confused. Those who were set apart beforehand will recognize the time. That's why the distancing you feel now is not a loss. It is preparation. God is creating space, clearing away the excess, and teaching you to walk with more clarity before the next season arrives. I am George, and before we continue, I ask you to follow the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything in 2026. When God begins to distance someone from the world, the first feeling is often confusion. The person tries to understand what they did wrong, searches for rational explanations, reviews recent decisions. But the distancing that precedes 2026 is not born from a mistake. It is born from protection. God distances because he knows that what is being formed is still too sensitive to remain exposed. This type of separation does not happen all at once. It starts with small discomforts. Environments that once felt normal begin to feel draining. Conversations lose depth. People who once brought peace now don't. Nothing explodes. Nothing ends dramatically. It just stops making sense. This is a clear sign that something is being preserved. Divine protection doesn't always feel comfortable. Often it comes in the form of loneliness, silence, and reduced stimuli. God removes distractions because he knows they steal focus. He removes excess voices because they confuse. He removes certain bonds because they drain spiritual energy. It is not punishment. It is care. Before 2026, this care intensifies because the time demands clarity. Those who remain too exposed lose sensitivity. Those who live surrounded by constant noise can't hear direction. God distances to ensure the chosen one does not lose what is being built inside. There is also an important aspect. The distancing prevents contamination. During times of transition, absorbing misaligned habits, thoughts, and emotions can compromise the whole process. That's why God creates distance, not to isolate permanently, but to protect temporarily. Many chosen ones try to resist this movement. They insist on maintaining old routines, worn-out bonds, commitments that no longer bear fruit. This resistance causes deep exhaustion. The more one tries to remain where God no longer sustains, the greater the fatigue. The distancing brings relief, even if it hurts at first. This period also reveals hidden dependencies. dependency on validation, on constant company, on social approval. God distances to show that the foundation must be strengthened in Him, not in the environment. Faith matures when it learns to stand firm without applause, without company, without external confirmation. The distancing before 2026 has a time limit, but it has no shortcut. Those who try to rush the process return confused. Those who accept the silence grow. It is in this time that character is adjusted, motivation is purified, and spiritual identity is solidified. God does not distance to hide the chosen one. He distances to prepare them. What is being formed now needs stillness, not exposure. And those who understand this stop fighting the distancing and start cooperating with it. As spiritual awareness grows, the world begins to feel heavy. What once was tolerable becomes unbearable. What once seemed normal now feels empty. This discomfort is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of awakening. And that's exactly why God begins to distance the chosen ones. The world operates on a rhythm that demands constant adaptation, competition, and appearance. For those who awaken, living at that pace comes at too high a cost. The soul enters conflict. The spirit loses peace. The mind gets tired trying to justify what no longer makes sense. God distances because He knows the world cannot sustain those who are awakening. This distancing doesn't mean rejecting everything or living in permanent isolation. It means recognizing limits, recognizing that certain environments drain more than they build, that certain conversations weaken more than they edify, that certain relationships require masks the chosen one can no longer wear. Before 2026, God removes the chosen one from contexts where they would have to pretend agreement, pretend interest, pretend normalcy. Living like that weakens the spirit. The distancing restores integrity. It allows the chosen one to be whole again. Many feel guilty for stepping away. They think they're becoming cold, indifferent, or selfish. But that feeling comes from the confusion between love and permanence. Loving doesn't mean staying in places that make you sick. God distances because He loves, because He knows staying there would destroy what is being formed. Another important point is that the world offers constant distractions to avoid inner confrontation. Noise, information overload, continuous stimuli. Awakening requires the opposite: silence, reflection, and adjustment. God distances to reduce the noise and allow truth to come to the surface. In 2026, this contrast will be even greater. Those who were not distanced before will feel intense confusion. Those who went through isolation will recognize the scenario clearly, not because they know more, but because they were prepared. The world cannot sustain those who awaken, because it demands constant adaptation to values that don't align with inner truth. God distances to prevent the chosen one from wearing themselves out, trying to fit where they no longer belong. This distancing is an invitation to honesty. Honesty with oneself, with God, and with one's own process. Those who accept it stop fighting against their own conscience. Those who resist prolong the exhaustion. Before 2026, distancing is necessary for the chosen one to cross into the next season with clarity. It's not about fleeing the world, but about not being consumed by it. And God, who knows the time and the heart, knows exactly when to distance in order to preserve what is essential. One of the central reasons why God is distancing the chosen ones before 2026 is to restore the ability to listen. Not to listen to external voices, opinions, or constant noise, but to clearly hear one's own conscience and spiritual direction. In the midst of the world's noise, this listening is easily lost. Isolation does not begin as a choice. It begins as a necessity. Little by little, the chosen one realizes that they need more silence, more time alone, fewer stimuli. This doesn't happen due to social weakness or rejection of the world, but because spiritual sensitivity increases. The more sensitive someone becomes, the less noise they can tolerate. God isolates because he knows that important decisions are near. Before major changes, direction must be clear. Noise confuses, stirs emotions, creates haste. Silence organizes. In isolation, thoughts align, priorities are reorganized, and truth appears without distortion. Many chosen ones find this process strange, because they were taught to associate spirituality with constant activity. Always doing, always speaking, always moving. But God teaches the opposite in this time. He slows the pace to deepen awareness. He teaches how to wait. He teaches how to observe. He teaches how to discern. In isolation, the chosen one begins to notice patterns that previously went unnoticed. They recognize repetitive cycles, choices made out of fear, decisions made to please others. This recognition doesn't come to accuse, but to correct. And correction only happens when there is enough silence to see. Before 2026, listening correctly is essential. Those who do not learn to listen now will be easily led by confusion later. Isolation trains the chosen one to rely less on impulses and more on discernment, to react less and reflect more. This time also teaches the difference between loneliness and spiritual isolation. Loneliness is the absence of connection. Spiritual isolation is the deepening of connection. Even while alone, the chosen one does not feel abandoned. They feel clarity. They feel alignment. They feel progressive adjustment. God doesn't speak loudly. He speaks with precision. And precision requires silence. That's why the distancing is not the loss of social life. It is the gain of direction. Those who accept this time begin to realize that many wrong decisions in the past were made in the noise. Isolation before 2026 prepares the chosen one to listen amid chaos. When the world becomes more confusing, they will know how to recognize the right direction, because they learn to hear it in silence. This is an invisible but essential training. Another reason why God is distancing the chosen ones before 2026 is to end emotional dependencies that still exist. Dependency on approval, on constant company, on external validation, on belonging to groups that no longer reflect inner truth. As long as these dependencies exist, the chosen one does not walk freely. They adjust decisions to avoid losing people. They silence truths to maintain bonds. They tolerate environments that drain energy to avoid feeling alone. God distances to break this cycle. The distancing reveals where faith was still based on people and not on God. It reveals where identity still depended on the eyes of others. This does not happen aggressively but progressively. Relationships drift. Invitations decrease. Connections weaken. And the chosen one begins to realize how much they depended on that to feel secure. This process hurts because it exposes weaknesses, but it also brings freedom. When emotional dependency falls, faith strengthens. The chosen one learns to walk without needing constant reaffirmation, learns to sustain decisions without collective approval. Before 2026, this liberation is necessary. The next season requires inner firmness. Those who are emotionally dependent on the environment are easily confused when the environment changes. God distances to strengthen the foundation. The distancing also reveals relationships that existed more out of habit than truth. People who were present only because the chosen one was adapting. When they stop conforming, these relationships naturally dissolve, not out of conflict, but out of incompatibility. This process teaches something fundamental. Not every connection that ends was a loss. Some were a burden. God distances so the chosen one learns to distinguish love from dependency, loyalty from attachment, presence from need. Ending emotional dependencies does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming whole. The chosen one begins to relate by choice, not by need. They serve by direction, not by obligation. They love with freedom, not out of fear of loss. Before 2026, God is removing emotional crutches, not to bring someone down, but to strengthen them. Those who accept this process enter the next season firmer, more aware, and less vulnerable to emotional manipulation. The distancing then stops being seen as loss and starts being recognized as liberation. Liberation to walk with more truth, more clarity, and less dependency. And this liberation is essential not to get lost when the world enters into definition. One of the most important effects of the distancing that God is promoting before 2026 is the cleansing of spiritual vision. When the chosen one is exposed to many voices, expectations, and external pressures, their perception becomes distorted. They begin to confuse what they want with what they need. They start justifying choices that no longer make sense. The distancing corrects this. God distances so the chosen one can see clearly again. In silence, vision adjusts. What once seemed confusing begins to organize. Priorities realign. What was urgency reveals itself as anxiety. What seemed like obligation shows itself as attachment. This clarity doesn't come from mental effort, but from the reduction of noise. Before 2026, seeing correctly will be essential. The coming season does not favor impulsive decisions, nor choices based on fear. Those without clear vision will get lost easily. God knows this, and that's why He distances now. He corrects perception before requiring positioning. During this period, many chosen ones go through frustrations. Plans don't move forward. Expectations are unmet. Paths seem closed. This is not delay, it's a vision adjustment. God prevents rushed progress to avoid bigger mistakes in the future. The distancing also reveals personal illusions, ideas that seemed like purpose, but were rooted in need. Dreams that seemed like callings, but were escapes. God distances to separate human desire from spiritual direction. This separation hurts, but it saves time, energy, and integrity. Another important point is that distancing teaches the chosen one to look inward without fear. They begin to recognize repeated patterns, choices made under pressure, decisions taken to avoid discomfort. This perception doesn't come to accuse, but to liberate. When vision is cleansed, the chosen one begins to quickly recognize what doesn't belong on their path. Prolonged confusion ends. The body responds. The mind alerts. The spirit signals. This sensitivity is a direct result of well-lived distancing. Before 2026, God wants the chosen one to see with precision, not emotion. Emotion confuses. Clarity guides. The distancing creates space for this clarity to take root. This process also reduces comparison. When the chosen one distances, they stop measuring their life against others. They stop chasing rhythms that aren't theirs. They learn to respect their own timing. This strengthens spiritual identity. God does not distance to delay. He distances to align. And aligning vision is one of the most important steps in this process. Those who see clearly walk with firmness, even on unstable ground. Everything God is doing now has a clear purpose: to prepare the chosen one not to get lost when 2026 arrives. The next season will bring confusion to many. Not necessarily immediate external chaos, but internal confusion. Those who are not aligned will enter into conflict with themselves. The distancing works like training. It teaches the chosen one to walk without constant support, without ongoing approval, without visible guarantees. This builds inner strength. Those who depend on external stimuli are easily lost when those stimuli change. Before 2026, God teaches the chosen one to sustain decisions in silence, to trust in their own conscience aligned with faith, not to back down just because the environment is pressuring. This strength is not born in crowds, it's born in isolation. The distancing also prepares the chosen one to discern quickly. In a time when information contradicts itself, voices multiply, and opinions clash, discernment will be essential. Those who are not trained in silence will be carried away by noise. Another aspect of this preparation is learning to deal with one's own company. Many get lost because they can't stand being alone. They fill the emptiness with anything. God distances to teach the chosen one to remain whole, even without distractions. This brings emotional and spiritual stability. In 2026, decisions will need to be made with clarity. Those still emotionally dependent, confused, or divided will struggle. God distances now to prevent collapses later. This distancing also strengthens practical faith. Not faith in speech, but the kind of faith that sustains hard choices. The chosen one learns to obey, even when they don't understand everything. Learns to trust even when the scenario isn't favorable. This kind of faith doesn't develop in comfortable environments. Many chosen ones want the distancing to end soon, but leaving before the right time compromises the preparation. God doesn't work in a rush. He works with precision. Each day in this process builds something that will be needed later. The distancing that God promotes before 2026 does not happen without purpose. And above all, it does not happen without a defined end. It ends when the spiritual identity of the chosen one is strong enough to no longer be shaped by the environment. This is the central point. God does not distance forever. He distances until the chosen one stops getting lost. As long as identity still depends on acceptance, approval, or constant company, distancing continues to be necessary. Not as punishment, but as protection. Isolation only becomes heavy when the chosen one insists on seeking outside what needs to be consolidated within. There comes a moment, however, when something changes. The chosen one begins to realize they no longer feel the same discomfort as before when alone. Silence is no longer oppressive and becomes stable. The absence of certain people no longer generates anxiety. There's clarity about who they are, what they carry, and what can no longer be negotiated. This is the sign that identity is being established. Not an identity built on spiritual labels, but on coherence. The chosen one no longer needs to adapt to fit in, no longer shapes themselves to avoid rejection, no longer accepts less than what they know to be true. When this happens, the isolation has fulfilled its role. Before 2026, God needs to ensure that the chosen one doesn't go back to being diluted when re-exposed to the world, because the next season will demand presence, discernment, and firmness. Those who still get lost trying to please, convince, or belong will not bear that weight. Isolation also teaches the chosen one to recognize their own value without comparison. Away from the noise, they learn not to measure their life by others. They learn to respect their rhythm, their story, and their process. This inner autonomy is essential not to get lost in unstable environments. The distancing that happens before 2026 is not an accident, nor a punishment. It is the direct consequence of a spiritual process that has reached a decisive point. God no longer keeps people in environments that can no longer sustain the truth that has been awakened in them. Isolation arises when staying becomes a risk of regression. None of this happens suddenly. The distancing has been built gradually, through discomforts, silent ruptures, and a loss of interest in what once seemed important. This process does not aim to destroy connections, but to reveal which ones were sustained only by habit, dependency, or fear of being alone. Before 2026, this adjustment becomes necessary because the next season will not allow ambiguity. Living divided, trying to maintain old versions while something new is forming, creates constant internal conflict. Distancing forces a decision. Either the person matures spiritually or tries to go back to structures that no longer work. The silence that accompanies this period is not emptiness. It exposes truths that noise used to hide. It reveals intentions, weaknesses, and the true foundation of faith. Many discover during this time that they were more reliant on people, environments, or routines than on God. Isolation corrects this. This process also redefines strength. Strength stops being about hustle, constant presence, or external approval. It becomes about stability, clarity, and the ability to remain firm even without applause. Those who go through this time correctly do not become arrogant. They become less manipulable. 2026 will be a year where many things become evident. Confused people will try to hold on to what they know. Others will move forward with awareness. The difference will be in the preparation. Those who respected the isolation will not panic, will not get lost trying to fit in, will not negotiate what has already been revealed. Distancing does not last forever, but its effects remain. It builds foundation, adjusts identity, removes excess, teaches how to walk without self-betrayal. This is the true purpose of this time. Now comment. What do you perceive as being closed or removed from your life during this time? The comments help us understand how this process is happening in real life.